All right, so good morning, people. Russ Jensen. It's about 11:30 a.m. the 22nd of November, 2016, here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, I've made a series of videos, I guess mainly just notes, conversations with myself more than anything else. Posted up on this channel, this constitutional cannabis channel. I'm doing in combination with a book that I've been writing for quite some time, and its title is Constitutional Cannabis: Exercising Your Unalienable Right of Necessity. Now, writing is a whole lot different than producing a video. And I want to go back and start from the beginning, try to do a better job in presenting some of this information that's so important, so valuable, so powerful. And go back, I guess, and do it from the premise of an understanding what it is that somebody that might be watching these things, reading this book, searching for this kind of information, would find useful. Now, there's a large community of individuals on the planet and here in the United States of America that believe that they have the right to utilize certain substances that have been denied, and they absolutely do. And I guess my primary concern is trying to help some of these families with these kids, or any member of your family, or even people that you know that are suffering from some of these terrible, debilitating diseases, cancers, and it's just all kinds of neurological issues that can receive some benefits from the use of some of these alternative methods, these natural remedies, I suppose, what you want to call it. Cannabis oils, CBDs, peyote, ayahuasca, a lot of these things for great for addressing psychological issues, right? Unfortunately, over time, our governance has been hijacked. We all know that. And part of that process has been misinforming the populace, providing disinformation, not providing clear explanations, hiding certain information from people. And of course, with modern society, it's so busy. We have so many things coming at us all the time, all this information. The technology is fantastic, but it just can be overwhelming. The internet's a fantastic place. The problem with that is there's so much disinformation out there, so much wrong information that gets people in a lot of trouble. A lot of that's potentially put out there by saboteurs, people paid by the government, basically, to provide and present improper information. A lot of times these groups get started, get going, they compromise, they get taken over by some other individuals that come in, they get off message. Okay? So I'm going to try to do a better job just walking people through without getting off on my little tangents, my little stories, not trying to be getting some of my own emotional issues come up, because there's a lot of things going on with me also, people. And it's hard for me sometimes to not come across as being condescending, and if I do, I apologize. It's not my intention at all. I guess it's just part of my mannerisms, the way that I am. Okay, I think the one thing, if we need to address, if you're going to sit down here in my office, I was going to counsel you on some of these things, what you should be doing, what you should be starting to think about. The one thing I would talk to you about, I would say to you, hey, look, clear your mind for just a second, clear everything about you and your country and your constitution and laws and everything else that you believe that that you've been shown, taught, trained, learned over the years, and just try to come up with a blank slate in the very beginning. So, and take yourself back and try to step outside yourself for just a second, observe for a minute what you are. What are you here? You know, you're a person walking around a body, aren't you? Thinking, seeing, feeling, observing, aren't you? Conscious awareness, that's what you are. Okay? You're inside, yeah, this physical body. And that's how we interact with the physical world that we find ourselves in. Now, if you stop for just a second and think about the fact that you just showed up here one day, didn't you? Hmm? You know, this whole process of learning all the different stages of life and all that stuff, everybody knows that. But you just are here, okay? Don't really even know where here is. Nobody will explain to you, primarily because they don't know either, okay? But here you are. There's you walking around, the conscious awareness. Now, is there anybody else inside of you with you, per se? Hmm? Hmm? Anybody walks around with you, says, do this, don't do that. Now, I'm not talking about the laws of our society, law enforcement people, your parents, the school teachers. I'm talking about in you. Who helps you or forces you or tells you to do or not to do something? Is there anybody? No, there's not. It's you. Now, this is a hard thing for a lot of people to understand, but you've got to start getting things in a proper reference if you're going to be able to make these arguments that we're going to be talking about. Because once again, we're taking on the status quo, people. A huge, gigantic, powerful, violent regime, hmm, aren't they? So we have to be very careful. We have to understand what we're doing and who we are primarily, because that's where all of our authority and our power comes from, understanding who we are. Okay? So it's just you here alone. Now, if you think about these things, when you were born, you came out of your mother's womb. Well, that is you by yourself in this little body. And you grow up, you go through school, graduate, get married, have kids, go to work, do all those things you do. Go through live your life. And then on that day when your time here is finished and you get to graduate and move on to the next place, wherever that is, or death, what we call it here, don't you experience that singularly by yourself? All that time, every bit of it, you might be surrounded by millions of people. You are other individuals here. No, it's you alone having experience by yourself as an individual. Now, it's very important we start to use the proper words, especially in paperwork, especially if we're interacting with our governmental authorities in any kind of way. Okay? Words are very powerful. It's the reason, it's the only way that we communicate on this planet. And the definition of words and understanding what they are is extremely important. Also, so we're talking about, well, the name of this book, the channel is called what? Constitutional Cannabis. Hmm? Talking about what? Constitution, constitutional law. Everybody knows that's the supreme law of the land, supposed to be. Hmm? Most people don't really understand what a constitution is, what its purpose is, what it does. Hmm? Now, that's part of the other reason why people get in trouble a lot of time. They start some of these legal actions. They develop these positions for themselves when they're doing things be considered illegal, unlawful. They don't properly understand the system. They don't understand the relationships. Now, everything that I teach, everything I'm showing to you, everything I use all the time, my primary points, the foundations of law that I use, the basis of my arguments that I then build out from, are taken word for word from your Constitution. All of them. Now, what people don't understand in that Constitution is they haven't really read it. They've been trained not to. Huh? Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10, there's a little book, reference incorporated by its reference, called Law of Nations. Now I have a few other parts of the title, but 1757, Emmerich D. Vattel. It was instrumental to your founding fathers in writing the Articles of Confederation, which was really the first constitution, if you will, of the United States of America. Instrumental in writing your Declaration of Independence. and instrumental in writing the Constitution for the United States of America. Now, in that book, the reason you haven't heard about it is because it's so powerful. It contains so much information, huh, about you, about government, how we're supposed to interact, dues and obligations, benefits and rights. That's all there are, people. So when we start talking about being an individual, it's what we established just a few minutes ago. That you are an individual. Now, we'll be looking, if we want to define what an individual is, we'll be able to find that in this book called Law of Nations. Now, I'm going to be doing some other videos, be very specific. I just want to walk through some of these things real quick to get you to understand what the power of this book is and how we're going to be utilizing it. So we're an individual. We have duties and obligations, and what those are specifically spelled out in this book, Law of Nations. What our indispensable obligations are, what our duties are, what our benefits and rights are that come from that. Also explains to us very clearly on the relationship. What exactly is a nation state? Now, if you stop and think about it, is there really such a thing as government? Is government something that you can actually touch? You actually see, like your car. Car's an object, okay? Government's a subject, subjective, okay? It's not in a physical sense, okay? No, the buildings that they have are that. Certainly the equipment that some of your governmental authorities have, guns and cars and radios, all those things, yeah, those are physical. But the actual government itself cannot be touched because it's a concept, it's an idea. It's what's happened over time as men got together, figured out better ways that they could survive on this planet. Explains that very specifically in this book, Law of Nations, and how that works. Exactly what is a nation, what's a state, how we come together. We come together for our mutual safety and benefit, don't we? And an individual here, you, walking around with nobody else to tell you what you can and can't be doing except for your own self. You make all of your own choices voluntarily all the time. You might be forced to make some, but even then you have an absolute choice at all times to obey or not to obey, don't you? Now there might be consequences attached to that, but you voluntarily get to make those choices. That makes you what? The supreme authority. You are the authority. Now, since we have perfect liberty, and it explains this too in the book, Law of Nations, that you have perfect liberties to do anything you want all the time. But in order to create a more stable environment for society, for ourselves, we can manage our affairs better. We come together, we create so-called government, and all we're doing, what's government? Isn't that other people that we've now given permission to? We've given away some of our authority to do anything we want, and said, hey, we're not going to do anything we want. In order to protect me from other people that may not want to be as engaged in society as I am. We have to have a way to maintain some semblance of the structure here in our society, same as government's about. So we give up, we delegate some of our authority, because there's only people. Government is a concept. You need to understand that also. And you have delegated a small amount of your unlimited, your total and complete liberty of action here to another group of people to do things on your behalf. That's what government is for. I always talk about public safety, general welfare. And that's true. They do a lot of those things really great, but they've gone too far. So anyway, so here we have you, an individual walking around this planet with total complete control over you and your actions, your thoughts at all times. Complete liberty to do whatever you want. There's more a few of us to get together and decide, hey, let's create a government to help us do some of these things we can't do for ourselves or don't want to do. don't have the abilities to do, and give that group of people a little bit of permission to work on our behalf, give up some of our authority, not give it up, but delegate some of it to them to operate and work on our behalf. We come up with some rules everybody agrees to abide by. That's how government works. That's all it is. Okay? Now, if you understand the word delegate, it's not to give away, it's not to reduce, okay? It's to authorize. Hmm? I'm authorizing you to do these certain things for me, and the authorization comes from my authority, my power, okay? That's what we have to understand. So here you are, an individual, total complete control, living alone all by yourself, hmm? And you've delegated some of your abilities to do anything you want. And you've also come to some agreements with other individuals here that you will engage in certain types of activities and you won't engage in other kinds of activities. That's where our laws come from. Now, we'll get back to this Constitution for just a second because um, we're going to utilize this book, Law of Nations, to define for us specifically what the Constitution is. You know, a lot of people talk about, hey, we're living in democracy. Isn't it? We hear all the elected officials all the time in their campaigns, rah, 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 democracy this, democracy that, rah, rah. We do not live in a democracy. Okay? We live in an aristocratic republic. Not even a constitutional republic. It is an aristocratic republic. And it explains that very specifically on why that is, what that is, in this book, Law of Nations. So we're actually going to the Constitution to help us define specifically what the Constitution is. Now, keep in mind too, constitutional law, everybody knows, claims to know, supreme law of the land. Cannot be challenged, cannot be changed, can it? Not without a big long process, amendments, all those different things, okay? Very difficult. Now, that's our power too, people, because what I'm teaching, what I'm going to be showing you to teach yourself to learn, okay, all constitutional law. These are words that cannot be challenged, cannot be changed. In fact, it states very specifically in this book, Law of Nations, that these words, this law, these principles are immutable, cannot be changed ever, not even through a legislative process. Because they're naturally occurring laws. Okay, that is what a law is, people. Okay? It's something that naturally happens, naturally occurs with or without the benefit, with or without the inclusion of government or other people. Okay? It's how things are. Okay. Now, this book, Law of Nations, it basically codified or put those things into writing. And the fact that it was utilized by these founders and the fact it was incorporated directly into your Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10, means it is constitutional law. It is supreme law. It is superior to your state laws, always. Okay? Superior to your laws of general applicability, always. Okay. Now, also what it does is it explains very specifically how your government is created, all the offices in it, what they can and cannot do. All the departments of your United States government are found in detailed inside this book, Law of Nations. Okay? So when I'm saying I'm taking things, constitutional law, and applying it to these real world situations that we have, that we're addressing, that we're involved in, that we're trying to establish a position on, I'm taking words directly out of this book, word for word, and building my position from that. They cannot challenge that. Ever. That, people, is the power of this book, the power of this particular approach that we're talking about. Now, it's quite a bit more involved than that, but that's really what I want to get across to everybody at this point in time right now, is that everything that I'm talking about, that I'm teaching, and this is more about, this is not restricted to like use of controlled substances. No, you can apply it to every single situation, issue in your society, issue in your particular circumstances that you want to get some changes enacted upon. Okay? It absolutely is powerful. And I think one of the greatest things about it is once we start to read and understand some of these concepts, it helps us become better uh, individuals. It helps us to really start figuring out how we can make our societies better, improve upon them, right? So we can do our indispensable obligations, because one of the indispensable obligations that we have is to be of service to one another, right? Far in excess of giving some spare change, a couple dollars to the guy on this corner, a little food drive at Thanksgiving, maybe some coats and shoes and some gifts at Christmas. Yeah, that's fantastic. Right? But no, this goes far, far, far in excess of that if we really understood what our obligations are. Okay? Now, part of what your governmental authorities, not want to say the government, now, let's get that straight right off the bat. You also need to start recognizing the fact that there is another group of people here on this planet that have managed over the years, centuries, uh, to acquire vast, huge sums of wealth and have used that to consolidate power to themselves. Hmm? Now, a lot of those things are done in the offices of governmental authority and proper use of the resources and development and all those things. And they've done a lot of great things. Hey, no doubt about it. Look around your society. Fantastic. The problem is they have encroached upon you. They have stripped you of your true identity, your authority. So that's really what we're going to start doing, people, is understanding better who and what you are, what our purpose here is, huh? What these documents really mean, and how we can actually utilize them in day-to-day, real-world situations. Huh? And if we want to use some of these substances, you know, while we're doing it with a full knowledge and from a position of being responsible, because we need to be doing that, huh? How we can use words directly out of your Constitution for the United States of America to establish a legal position, a legal argument, a lawful defense, and also a legal position, a legal argument, and a lawful offense. Because a lot of times we have to bring counterclaims, or we have to take actions ourselves in order to interact with our uh, governmental officials. There's a process. I'm not about destruction at all. Right? We don't need to protest. We don't need to write letters. We don't need to cause our problems. No, we need to use a process that's been established. The legal process has been around for a lot longer than the United States of America, and we can just use those things, those concepts, those ideas, those uh, accepted maxims of law, contracts law primarily, is what we're operating upon. Okay? Constitutional laws, reference and frame from a position and understanding of contracts and agreements, in order for us to be able to have a more meaningful experience here, to improve the lives of ourselves, our families, our neighborhoods, our cities, our counties, our states, our nation, the entire planet. Okay? We're in a lot of trouble on this planet right now, people. We really are. Okay? Like I said, I don't want to get off topic like I typically do. Okay? So the number one thing that has to happen for you if you're going to be pursuing this or want to get yourself better educated, which everybody should, whether you want to use cannabis or not, doesn't really matter. Everybody should know this information. Okay? You need to get a copy of this book, Law of Nations, Memoric D. Battelle, 1757. It's on Amazon. It's online. Get a copy. Start reading. You need to get a copy of your Articles of Confederation. Get a copy of the Declaration of Independence. Get a copy of your Constitution. Now, I said, all those things are online too. So, I mean, you don't have to have it in the printed version, but you can. A lot of people like that too. And so, over the course of the next little while, I'll be doing some streaming events on YouTube here, having some discussion groups in my office. Um, and trying to work with some people to help me create better videos and segment these things out, a step-by-step process to take people from start to finish on this whole concept, constitutional cannabis, exercising your unalienable right of necessity. So you have a better understanding. Now, I've got paperwork. Let me posting some links to some of that, but I'm not really keen on doing that too much because what happens is people grab those things, copy them, cut and paste, add in a few things, put their name in it, file it into the court or try to use it in their cases, and they get in a lot of trouble because they don't understand the concepts, they don't understand the information. Okay? They don't understand how to properly establish your position long before you have to be dealing in a court or in a legal situation. That's the other thing I teach too, or try to teach or share people who've got to be understanding. You got to establish a way of being, of living. Okay? That's where our strength comes from, people. An understanding of who and what we are. Okay? I'm sorry, humans running around this planet long before they decide to get together and create governments. Even if the government is here, guess what? Are they instrumental in your actual existence? No. Okay? They are supposed to be just providing a stable environment for the rest of us to run around in and interact, have agreements, have experiences in. Okay? Not interfere in every aspect and criminalize every aspect of living like they've done. Okay? I said, we talking about the importance of understanding the definition of words, the proper pronunciation of words, the proper way of reading, understanding grammar, English language, syntax, all very, it's important. Okay? Now, like I said, I don't mean to be condescending, and I'm going to try to, take things through from a step-by-step basis and at least point out what the importance is for certain things. You need to understand it's about you. Your existence here is about you, right? Don't need permission. Your life, your liberty, your pursuit of happiness, aren't those called what? They call those your unalienable rights, no, or your unalienable rights. And we'll talk about the difference between those, what the definitions really are, okay? Well, those are properties, rights, if you will. Can't be taken away from you. Can't be taxed. Can't be diminished. Can't be denied to you without your consent, some kind of a way. Right? Now, gone on too long, almost 30 minutes, haven't really got through anything, but like I said, this is very important. So, number one step, you need to get these documents, this information together in front of you so that when I'm talking about these things, you can follow along with me and go read these things for yourself. That's the other absolute critical thing. You need to be verifying what I'm saying at all times. I make mistakes, I do. I say the wrong word sometimes, reference the wrong thing, call it the wrong chapter, whatever. Very important you guys understand those things. You need to be verifying these things for yourself because guess what? Let's say you decide you want to start, helping your sick child, even cannabis oils in a state that's not legal. Even states that's legal, you still have issues with the feds, don't you? Okay? But you decide you want to do that. Take that step, start doing those things. They come, knock on the door, kick in the door, whatever they do. Okay, all of a sudden now you got a legal issue, a legal problem. I can't come do those things for you, right? I can help, sure will. Right? Do everything I can to help you in that situation. You need to have a better understanding of exactly what's going on, why you're doing it at all times. Right? If you understand this simple information, it's very simple. Once we get through all the explanation of everything, it comes down to just a few sentences. It really does. Okay, it's not complicated at all. And like I said, if it's done properly, they cannot defeat you. No, they'll try, they'll lie, cheat, steal, the things they always do, okay? But they can't. Why? Because it's a constitutional law that we're relying upon word for word out of this book, which is constitutional law also, okay? It gives me constitutional authority to do these things. And it prohibits you, Mr. Government Man, with constitutional authority. It prohibits you constitutionally to not do any of the things. It prohibits you from doing the things you wanted to do to me because you don't have authority to do that. You do those things, come kick in my door, do all these things. You're in violation, direct violation of constitutional law that I've established my position upon. Okay? Not about interpreting other case law, interpreting some statutes that are very subjective, can go off 1,000 different ways. No, these are words directly out of Law of Nations, which is directly out of your Constitution of the United States of America, which at this point in time, as far as I still know, is supreme law of this land that can be relied upon at any time, 100%. If we use one of the basic tenets coming down from the Supreme Court, their instructions they've given to all the lower courts is what? Huh? Statutes, laws, regulations must be construed according to the simple, plain meaning of the words first. They also must be construed in the light that's most constitutional at all times. Okay? So that's it. We're going to rely a little bit on some of the Supreme Court holdings, a little bit on some case law, landmark cases primarily, but primarily on relying upon our understanding of who we are, what our authority is, and how we can utilize the other supreme authority of this United States of America, the Constitution, and the words that are in it. How they apply to us, how they apply to the other individuals, how they apply to our governance. So, gone on too long. I'll come back and make another one. We're going to start talking about where it is, what it describes you as here in the Constitution as an individual, and why it is that's what you need to be referencing yourself as, because that gives you your constitutional authority, or part of it. Okay. Love everybody. Appreciate you taking time to listen to these things. I hope it makes a difference. I hope it's understandable. If it's not, please let me know. I'll do what I can to try to explain things better. A lot of information, but it's not complicated. We just need to get through some of it. Mostly got to change your thinking. You have to change your perception of yourself, what you are, right? Your true authority. Okay, talk to you later.